Okay, there we go.
Are we up?
I got to get to. Why can't I get to YouTube?
Yeah, we're live, man. We're up there.
Nope, we're good. Yeah, sorry. The computer was slow for some reason. I don't know why.
That's all right. We're up there. We're up there. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. We're going to get started in a minute. Give everybody a chance to filter in. Can you see the comments, Burke?
I just split screened. Hold on.
All right. You monitor the chat tonight. Can you do that?
I hope so. I thought I did last time.
Yeah, usually I have it up in the background, though. I can't get it up tonight.
That's what she said.
Har.
Oh, that's going to be live too.
That is going to be live. The whole world to see. Probably the two people watching this.
All right, just let me know when you want me to record it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. We'll no, whatever. We can go whenever. It's 8:02. Let's give the people what they want. Let's get started.
Hang on.
As long as you got the chat going. You're up on the chat? Take that as a yes. All right, we're up. Welcome, everybody, to episode 16, season 2, episode 1 of the Chalk Talk podcast. I'm your host, Ken Doolittle, joined, as always, by my co-host, my good friend, my resident Packers fan, Michael Burke. Good to see everybody. We've been off for 2 weeks, taking a little spring break hiatus, letting the NFL season sink in. And as you can tell, we're back tonight with a little fireside chat, FDR style. So we are going to keep this very informal tonight. And I say that only because we, for the first time in Chalk Talk history, do not have any sort of semblance of a script whatsoever. So this could go very wrong very quickly, or as I like to think, this could go very well very quickly, and we can see how well our improv skills can do. We have a lot to talk about. NBA is in the best part of their season. College basketball is getting to the best part of their season. And there's been some big NFL news this week with some quarterbacks on the carousel. But Burke, first I ask you, haven't seen you in about 3 weeks on this video chat. How goes it?
A lot happier knowing that Aaron Rodgers is coming back to Green Bay. I'm excited. The little 2 week relaxation period, kind of just to relax, regroup, refocus. A lot of grind went into the NFL playoffs. A lot of mental strain getting through that wake of the season. But as that season died down, you kind of need a break to recharge and regroup. And now I think, at least on my end, I'm better than ever. I'm ready to go into a big part of the gambling sports season over this next 4 to 5 weeks. Really excited to see how basketball turns out.
Hold on. I don't think we're live anymore.
No, we're still live.
You sure?
Yep.
All right. I hope so.
We're still live.
Okay. Sorry. Somebody told me we're not live. I got to make sure we're appeasing the fans here.
Who's that?
My friend Donovan. Yeah. All right. We're still up there. All right. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt everybody. I told you this was unscripted. But that's good to hear about Rodgers. That's good to hear that you are enjoying the Rodgers saga. I, for one, am not enjoying the Rodgers saga, but we'll get to that later. I don't want to give away any spoilers. And we have to lead tonight with, well, Burke is ready to invest his money into this upcoming slate of basketball and college basketball, and perhaps the best time of year for college basketball. I am taking a step back, and I am taking a brief hiatus from actually wagering my real dollars. And it's somewhat of an interesting subject to talk about because this is a gambling podcast and we don't want to discourage people from gambling, but at the same time, we don't want to encourage people from over gambling, of course. So I must be real with the audience. I have lost a decent chunk of change in the past couple weeks, and you get kind of tied up in the gambling universe. And I've been watching these NBA games, and the NBA is a sport that I love and it's near and dear to my heart, and genuinely enjoy watching basketball, but you get caught up when you bet too much and you end up, win or lose, I don't like watching games where I know every player prop, how many rebounds like the backup center is supposed to get, how many points the first quarter is supposed to be. And I want to step away from that for a minute, and I want to enjoy the games again. So for the next however long, I don't want to even put a time frame on it. It might be a day, might be a week, might be a month. I'm not going to give any NBA picks on the Twitter account. I apologize. I hope you guys have taken advantage of my winnings for the season so far. But it's important to take a step back when you need a step back. Realize that you can have a step back. And I'm going to use this great analogy that we use in the NFL, especially come playoff time. If there's a bad quarterback in the NFL and he makes it to the playoffs, you may be inclined to say you need to bet against him in round one. But I would advise you that if you don't bet against him in round one, you may be able to bet against him next week, or you may be able to bet against another bad quarterback next week. My point being, don't rush into things just because you think it's the only game. There are plenty more games on the slate. There are plenty of times to profit. There are plenty of opportunities to get your money in where you think it needs to be in. Does not have to be today. Does not have to be tomorrow. If you need a step back, take a step back, because this is supposed to be fun, right, Burke? And this is supposed to be something we do together. And if it becomes something that's not fun, that's a whole different animal, and we don't want to go down that road. So let's keep this fun. Am I right?
Yeah, that you don't want to dig yourselves too deep into a hole, and you want to realize when you are kind of falling down that path. Always gamble responsibly, and obviously for all of our viewers, if you have any issues whatsoever, there are hotlines to call to help you get through whatever tough times you're getting through. But once gambling becomes survival mode as opposed to being fun, that's when it's a real problem. And we advise all of our viewers and our followers not to fall down that path.
And I think we leave it at that, right? And as you can see, we're doing all right here. We'll stick with it, and we'll get you your pick soon. But that's the reason for my hiatus. If you want me to take a look at a game and give you a pick, please still tweet us. I will still, of course, give you my input. And follow along with Burke's picks. He's been doing all right lately. He's going to be above the line on the college basketball season, especially as we head into March Madness. But sticking with basketball, I'm going to a game tomorrow, my man. I'm going to Philly. I'm going to see the Nets play the Sixers. I wish that Ben Simmons was going to play in that game, but he's not. But
we knew he wasn't going to play. You kidding me?
I thought he might play. I don't know, man. But he is going to be on the bench, which gives me a little inkling that, like, he's probably legitimately hurt, right? Because if he didn't want to go to that game, like, there's no way Steve Nash is making him sit on the bench for that game. This seems like a Ben decision, right?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's his agent saying if you're not healthy, you're going to get embarrassed on that court by that fan base. Because if you couldn't play for them while you were on the team and you're that scared of them, I mean, I don't know the minor details of the situation, but if he's not healthy, there's no reason to bring him back, especially to play an environment like that when you're going to need him for the stretch run for the playoffs, because the Nets are one of the favorites in the East to go all the way and possibly represent the Eastern Conference in the finals. So you need your best players healthy at the right time. And even though this is a very emotional game for both sides here, if you're not 100%, it's not going to make or break you getting into the playoffs or not. So he's probably making the right decision here to sit this one out.
Yeah, he probably is, but I give him some credit for going, right? Like, he didn't have to go to that game at all. And the fact that he's going to sit on the bench is, somewhat interesting to me. And I imagine he's still going to get booed, and there's going to be some like Simmons sucks chants, or probably something a little more vulgar than that. But I give him credit for going, because if he really didn't want to go, there's no way Nash would have made him go to that arena. So at least he's there. He's probably legitimately hurt with his back injury. So, hey, I mean, sit him out. You're going to need him for the stretch run. They did ask Doc Rivers the other night, though, if they thought he was going to get a video tribute to Ben at the stadium. There's not a chance in hell he's going to get a video tribute. That would be a louder boo than if he played.
It'd be a video of him dunking the ball and shooting layups, because he couldn't shoot anything else in Philadelphia. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he did really have some good, he did a lot of good there. And he was a great player. I think if you erase those last 2 weeks from Sixers fans' memory, they would love Ben. And Philly just doesn't understand how good Ben Simmons is. I will die on this hill for the rest of my life. Philly fans don't get it. They don't know how good Ben Simmons is. And I mean, you can see I'm wearing a James Harden shirt. I love James Harden. I'm a big fan of James Harden. I think that Philly's a title contender with him on the squad. But Ben Simmons was great. Tyrese Maxey is like 10 notches below the talent of Ben Simmons. So I don't want to hear those comparisons. But they're obviously a better title team with Harden. I'm excited to see that game. I don't know the line yet. I'm going to see if I can look it up right now. What do you think that line would be? So Philly at home, Harden and Embiid playing, Durant and Kyrie playing. What do you think? Sixers by 1.5?
Nah, I think it's more like 3.5.
You think 3? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think 3?
Giving
them points?
I think that's going to be a very strong game that the home crowd's going to play a big factor in. And I think that's a huge difference with the Nets having to come on the road. Obviously, Kyrie's not playing every day because of the stupid sanctions in New York that he has to deal with. But I just think that line's probably about 3.5, maybe even 4. I haven't looked at it either. I honestly will not be watching.
I'll see if I can find it. It might not be up. I really don't know if either of those guys are playing tonight, but I'll see if I can find it and maybe post it after. My wife posted in the chat, thank you, Chalk Talk, for getting me new living room furniture. You are welcome. Burke, you're going to have to come over and sit on our couch some night because it's not a Doolittle home couch until Burke takes a nap on it.
That's right. That's right. I'll be back. I'll be back soon. I will be back very soon.
Very good. So, hey, while we're on the topic of NBA, let's talk title odds. Let's talk MVP odds. So since we're talking about the players, right, let's start with the MVP race. It's a pretty much a 2-man race at this point. So I'm looking at odds here. You have Embiid minus 145, Jokic plus 150. We were talking a little bit before the show about Jokic's insane stats. But you think Embiid's going to take this one home?
Yeah, I think if the Sixers continue on the run they're at, he's been putting up astronomical numbers, and I think the Sixers are a better team than the Nuggets are right now. Even though Jokic is basically the heart and soul of that team, I think teams' records ultimately dictate who should win MVP or not. And if the Sixers somehow come out of this, I don't know where they are at the standings right now, but if they come close to getting to the top, if they get a top 3 seed, I would have to take Embiid to win the MVP. He's just having an unbelievable year. Even with all the hoopla dealing with Simmons and all that off the court nonsense, him still going out and producing like he is with now, obviously he has a partner in crime now in James Harden who can get his own too. But I think Embiid is that Philadelphia 76ers team. He's what makes that team go. And I believe he will be the one holding the hardware at the end of the regular season with an MVP trophy on his belt.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. He's obviously the favorite at the moment. I think Jokic is having a better year. And to me, and you said you don't know where the Sixers are, I think they're second in the standings behind the Heat in the East right now. Don't quote me on that, but I think they've surged up to 2, and the Nuggets are 6th. But the Nuggets are a much worse team overall. Like Jokic is playing without his next 2 stars, and he's playing with essentially a G League squad, and he's putting up insane stats, like 26 and 14 a night. So if it were my vote, I might give it to him, but I do believe that Embiid's going to win this thing unless he gets hurt. And even so, there's not enough games left. And I know Harden's going to take a little bit away from that, but I still think Embiid probably takes it home. Giannis is interesting at plus 950 because he's still the best player in the league. He is unstoppable. There's nobody in the league that can even attempt to guard him. He does what he wants. He's making free throws. Do you know he's shooting 50% from 3 since Christmas?
That's absolutely outrageous.
That's a real problem for the rest of the league if that continues or even gets close to 50%. Because if he's making half his threes, there's nothing you can do against that man. He is doing things that are not supposed to be done. I'm watching him drop step on the baseline and just dunk like over dudes. So him at plus 950, he's always going to be in that MVP race. John Moran at 2,400. Good story. I don't think he's going to win it. DeMar DeRozan at 30-1. Another good story. Maybe in another year, DeRozan would win it. But this year, there's just 2 guys at the top, Embiid and Jokic, that are just well above everybody else, right? Like there's no shot.
I would agree. I think the only chance DeRozan has is if he has he goes on an absolute tear for the rest of the season, the Bulls somehow sneak out with the 1 seed, which I don't see happening, especially with other teams getting healthy.
Yeah.
But not to downplay what he's doing, he's had an unbelievable season in Chicago. And we got a question regarding the MVPs. How does the MVP get decided? Is it purely fan vote, or is there a like a sports writers vote ordeal that like the MLB goes through. And I'm going to defer to you because I actually do not know the answer to this.
Yeah, so there's no fan vote for the MVP, the fan vote for the All-Star game, but there's a set of writers, and I think it's 100 NBA media writers and columnists that get decided for these votes. Like I know a couple of them, Bill Simmons and Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer vote on some of them. Brian Windhorst votes on it. Zach Lowe from ESPN, he votes on it. So guys like that, and I think there's 100 of them that vote on the MVP. And what they do is they rank their top 5 in order. So they would go, Embiid 1, Jokic 2, Ja 3, Giannis 4, whatever, Luka 5. And you get assigned certain point values. So if you're 5th, you get 1 point. If you're 4th, you get 5, whatever it is. And then they rank the top 5 at the end so they could see who came close to that. So that's how it's decided. And usually, like a lot of these people know what they're doing. So I trust them, right? Like Zach Lowe, he's one of my favorite NBA columnists. I think he definitely knows what he's doing. A guy named Amin Al-Hassan. I don't know if anybody knows Amin, and I'm sorry, Amin, if you're watching this tonight, but he doesn't have any clue what he's doing. So he votes on the NBA MVP too. And so there are some guys out there that really don't know what they're doing, but a lot of them do. So that's how it gets decided. So good question. We always appreciate that. And when you're betting on these things, that's something you should know, right? You should know how these things get decided, because if it is a fan vote or something like that, the outcome is definitely potentially different than a media vote, right?
Yeah, I would assume you'd want to go with a team that's in a bigger market with a bigger fan base, as like a New York or a Chicago.
Sure.
Just more fans to deal with that, and you have a chance to get more votes. I think that's how a lot of the all-star teams get picked now. It's you
The
got
All-Star is like half fan vote.
you got cities that are promoting their players, and if you're in a high volume area, you're going to naturally get more votes, even though you may not be as deserving as some other guy having a better season. But if you have a monstrous fan base behind you, they will support you in a fan vote in any sort of scenario. You see that in MLB, you see that in the NBA for the All-Star game all the time, which thank God that the MVP is left to somewhat professionals. I can't really say the same about the MLB writers who vote for the Hall of Fame. I have my grievances with them.
Oh, we're gonna have to shoot the shit about
that. That's a different episode and a different time. Right now we got to worry about baseball even being played this year first before we can talk about that.
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about that. But first, Nick followed up in the chat. He asked, do you think they've historically done a good job selecting the MVPs? Which is another good follow-up question. I would say yes for the most part. And the big discussion on MVP is, it stands for literally most valuable player. So if you want to interpret that literally, it's who has the most value to their team. If you pull that man off the team, whose team gets worse, right? And in this case, it's probably Jokic, but they don't always interpret it that way, but they always interpret it consistently. So typically it's a player on a top 3 or 4 seed that has obviously the best player on the team, has some sort of historic relevance, and would be remembered as one of the best players in the league. The only outlier to that top 3 or 4 record is the Westbrook triple-double season, where that was probably an erroneous pick because he averaged a triple-double and we thought it was historic. Turns out he's done it every year since, pretty much, or 2 or 3 years. But I think that team, that Thunder team, was a 6 or a 7 seed. And the big knock that year, or the big reason that people voted for him that year, and who voted for him that year, and I hear him on radio every day, Amin Al-Hassan voted for Russell Westbrook that year. And I'm okay with it, but the Thunder didn't win any more games. I heard this last week. They're over-under. They won like one more game than the over-under was supposed to. So they did exactly what they were supposed to do with Russ averaging a triple-double. So I would have given it to Harden that year. But other than that, they typically do a good job, and they're pretty consistent with their voting. I don't know if you follow that too much or what you think on that. There's a couple of years that could go either way. But if it has to be blatantly wrong for me to disagree with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it rarely is. I know there was an issue a couple of years. I believe Steph Curry was a unanimous MVP.
That was a unanimous. Yep.
And that brought up a lot of controversy because was he the first one?
Yes,
I believe. And a lot of people felt it probably should have been something along the lines of baseball, where you didn't have a unanimous vote for into the Hall of Fame for a very long time. Mariano obviously being the first one, but yeah, for the most part, I think at least the NBA, you have less controversy. Over the course of 82 games, the top players tend to separate themselves, so it becomes clear cut. You rarely get the entire side of the media going the wrong way on something like this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for the most part, they probably do a pretty good job. I could probably go on for this for like an hour. So if you want to hear me talk about MVPs, I'll come on live and do that one day on the Twitter. But let's move to title odds real quick before we get to the NFL news. So the favorites right now are the Suns at plus 430, the Warriors are plus 460, and then the Nets are plus 550. I have a problem with all three of those odds because they are all missing one of their key guys. The Suns are without Chris Paul. The Warriors are without Wiseman, who's coming back, and Draymond Green. And the Nets are without Ben Simmons and or James Harden, whichever way you want to look at that, and Kyrie Irving for 50% of the time at this point, right? None of those three teams are going to win a title. If you had to ask me who the most likely one was, it's the Nets, and they're third in odds. The Warriors have been god-awful since Christmas. They started, I think, 13-2 or something like that, 14-2. And ever since, they've been a 500 team. The Suns are not the same without Chris Paul, who's one of the best leaders that the NBA has seen. Neither of those teams are winning a title. Am I crazy? Why are they the favorites?
They're not winning a title with the current active rosters they have right now, because Chris Paul is a floor general and he will make any team better whenever he is on the court.
Sure.
He got them to the finals last year with that young roster,
Yeah.
and
They
need him in there to get them over the hump. Now, I believe they're up by like 6 or 7 games in the West. That's why their odds are so low, because they've got such a big lead. They're going to be hosting every single playoff series. The Warriors are a completely different team defensively with Draymond Green out of the lineup. Now, a lot of people give him crap for his offense, but his defense is top of the line, and he's been top of the line for a very long time.
I'm going to say something controversial. I think they miss his offense just as much as they miss his defense. And I know I'm the king of driving the bus of Draymond can't shoot, backpack guy out there shooting like he's hunched over. I think they miss his mind on offense and him setting them up. Because as much as you want to praise Steph Curry, and it's well-deserved, he's not a point guard. You know what I mean? He brings the ball up the court, but he's not a point guard. And Draymond may not be a point guard either, but he brings the ball up the court, and I would rather him play the point than Steph play the point because of, one, what Draymond does, and two, what Steph can do off the ball.
Same with Klay Thompson. If you have Draymond Green coming up with the ball, you can run Thompson and Curry off of screens, and if you don't help out on Draymond Green, he's an all-star in his right. He'll be able to get to the basket and distribute. He's that kind of player.
And having those two guys off the ball, I think, makes a big difference. And not that Draymond is like, a title decider. It's obviously Steph and to an extent Klay, but Klay just has not been what a lot of people thought he would be.
He missed 2 years, and he's coming back from an ACL injury.
He's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic shooter. And Steph is, whatever you want to say, he's on a decline in his career. He's still a great player, and he's, one of the top guys in the league, but he's not that guy that can shoulder the load. And neither is LeBron, right? But Giannis is, Durant is, Luka is to an extent. So you have these guys, and I can't see the Warriors win a title.
Jokic too, obviously.
He's up there. I have the Clippers at 100-1 in my bet slip. Like, am I nuts for doing that? Kawhi could come back.
He could, but
and if he doesn't, they're not going to win the title, and I'm writing this off. But he was at shoot around yesterday. Like, he could come back. And if he does, that West is wide open, my friend.
That West is probably, you've got, with everybody healthy, you'll have Phoenix, Golden State,
the Grizzlies,
Lakers, Clippers, Grizzlies. Jokic will be a problem.
Yeah. So if you go through the standings,
that's
right? It's Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors, 1, 2, 3, and Jazz 4. I'm not scared of any 4 of those teams if I'm the Kawhi Clippers. Are you?
No, because Kawhi is one of the top 10 players when healthy in the NBA.
Right, because Kawhi is better than any of those guys on any of those teams. The Jazz are what they are.
And paired with Paul George, that's two top 20 guys.
We'll come back to the Mavericks at 5. They just don't have enough. Luka is great, but they're like the worst. We've seen it 2 years in a row. The Clippers just own them. The Nuggets at 6 are like somewhat scary. Timberwolves at 7. I'm not afraid of Cat if I'm Kawhi and Paul George and Zubac and whoever else you want to say down there, right? The Clippers at 8, the Lakers at 9, they suck. The Pelicans at 10, they suck. And if the Blazers get in, they suck too, right? I don't think the Clippers at 100-1 is that crazy.
No, and especially if they get healthy, you got 2 superstars on that team that One's
Right.
already got an NBA championship under his belt, and they can do it again. Like the Clippers, probably one of the only reasons why they lost so early is because Kawhi got hurt.
Kawhi got hurt. Yeah, and they didn't even lose early. They lost. They
Second
beat
round.
the Jazz.
Second, they lost in
without
the
Kawhi.
conference semifinals. Yeah.
They beat the finals, but they lost to they beat the Mavs and then they beat the Jazz, and they lost to the Suns.
That's right.
And they didn't have Kawhi for that Sun series, and they beat the Jazz without Kawhi. So I don't know.
Right.
I like that bet. They're currently plus 600 or plus 6,000 on DraftKings, plus 5,500 at FanDuel. So I have them at plus 10,000, which is good. But hey, man, I mean, if the CT crew wants to jump on and put $10 on the Clippers right now, wins you 600. I think it's worth $10. You know what I mean?
It's worth sprinkling, because if they do get healthy, they have just as good a chance as anybody.
That's the thing. If Kawhi comes back, and again, he was at the shoot around yesterday. If he comes back, they have just as good a shot at anybody. Can we take 20 seconds and talk about the Lakers? Because I know you used to be a Lakers fan, right? I remember you had that Kobe bobblehead down in the basement.
I was a Kobe fan for a very long time.
You were a Kobe fan. The Lakers are
Still
terrible.
am. Still
the
am.
Lakers are god awful. Do not. I'm telling you this now, and I texted our friend this week, Nate, and I was telling him, because we're big LeBron guys, right? And I was telling him, do not let either one of us get talked into betting the Lakers when they win the play-in tournament and they're up 1-0 on Golden State in round one. Do not bet them, because they are not winning the title. They have no shot, right? 0%.
I just, LeBron, I know he could carry teams, but that was 4 years ago by himself, dragging the Cavs to that championship. But he also had Kyrie Irving on that team to help him. I don't think. I'm not sure. Is Davis hurt right now?
Yeah, he's hurt. He's been in and out, but he's out right now. He'll probably come back for the play.
Westbrook's getting old too, and he's
Westbrook has been so bad. I wish he was hurt. But LeBron's chasing points. He's gonna catch Kareem. I think it's only a matter of time.
I agree.
That's what he's doing now. He knows the team sucks. He's chasing points. And I think was it Saturday night when they played the Warriors. Did you catch any of that? LeBron had 56, and it took a Herculean effort from LeBron to beat the Warriors' B effort. And the Warriors aren't even that good. And so that just shows me that the Lakers are trash. They're awful. Do not bet on them. The Clippers, the Nuggets, and how about the Celtics, man? Those three are my long shots. And when I went live on Twitter, what was it, last week when we couldn't do our episode, I pitched all three of those teams as long shots, and I stand by all of them. You been watching Tatum at all or anything?
Honestly, I have watched zero NBA over the last several weeks.
You're missing out. I think, and I'm biased because I love the NBA, I think the NBA product is the best that it's ever been right now. I think the players are playing phenomenally. They show up every game. That Suns-Bucks games, for anybody who caught it on Sunday, everybody was hooping in the fourth quarter. It was just insane.
And I don't want to toot your own horn, but I believe our followers definitely want you back making picks sooner rather than later on the NBA.
Well, hopefully I'm back soon. You know, I gotta get right, and then I'll be back. I don't want to lead you astray. We had a bad week last week.
You gotta stop buying couches.
I guess I gotta stop buying couches for the new house, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll get back as soon as I can, as soon as I feel it. Maybe I'll go to the game tomorrow and have a revelation. But
you might.
From a product that's very good in the NBA, let's move to a product that I think is not very good in the NFL. And it's the offseason, so we don't have games to talk about, but we do have a lot of quarterback movement to talk about. And why don't we start with your man, Rodgers, who's not moving anywhere, but just got paid $1 gazillion to stay with the team that he was probably going to stay with anyway. And he's 38 years old. Do you think this is a good, separate yourself from Rodgers for a second and focus on yourself as a Packers fan? Would you pay this man $50 million a year for the next 4 years when we have never seen anybody other than Tom Brady, who's a human machine, play past 40?
I think Rodgers has earned that money. I know he's 38 years old, but he's coming off back-to-back MVP seasons. I know he hasn't really produced well in the playoffs, but I think he's their best chance right now to win a world championship, as opposed to starting fresh or trying to go after somebody. Like, there's really, who else are you going to go after? That's not really a franchise quarterback. Russ isn't going to do it. If he came to Green Bay, he wasn't going to do it. But so I think they made the right decision and invested in Aaron Rodgers, and they already dropped the franchise tag on Devontae Adams, so they're going to keep him too. Now it's just a matter of executing in the draft and getting the right guys to surround him with. And the Packers aren't big free agents anyway. They build their team through the draft. They don't sign a lot of free agents. So I'm not really too concerned why all these news outlets are saying that it's a big time for them in free agency. They don't go after big names. They just don't. They home grow everybody in through the draft, and that's how they develop their players. And obviously with Rodgers, you got a guy that stuck around for 16, 17 years. Devontae's getting up there. He's coming close to double digits now too with the team.
Well, Devontae's just going to follow him, right? If
Aaron Jones is still a top 10 running back in the NFL from a fantasy perspective. He's going to get his touches. They've got a great backup running back in AJ Dillon. He's young. He's got fresh legs. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. I would like them to get another wide receiver. I'd like them to part ways with MVS. Ideally, I'd like them to get Jahan Dotson in the draft in the first round. Go with a wide receiver, and then start building from there. The defense is what used to be a problem is not a problem right now. It's unfortunately and rarely it's the offense, and they got to address it.
I'm raising my hand. Can I chime in? And I'll defer to you as the Packers fan, but
proceed.
I have two questions to ask you, and we'll do our one-word answer game. All right. Given the running game there, wouldn't Russell be fine? Russell Wilson, wouldn't he have been fine in that offense? Yes or no?
He can't run the offense like Rodgers can.
Okay, so let me come back to that. But my second question now becomes, would you rather they have taken T. Higgins in the draft versus Jordan Love?
Were they the same draft?
Yeah. They had that opportunity. He would have been the wide out on the board. But they went quarterback.
Probably.
Okay, because I would have rather had T. Higgins there too. Now, you can say Jordan Love inspired Rodgers to win these MVPs, right, and kind of pissed him off and lit a fire. Who's to say he wouldn't have done that anyway? I have no argument that Rodgers is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. 7, if you want to put him 7, 5, 10, whatever. He's somewhere in there.
He's the most accurate quarterback of all time.
Okay.
Stats show it.
But probably not in 2 years. I think, well, no, I don't know that. But here's my thing. They're paying him $50 million a year over 4 years, $200 million.
He's got 150. Well, allegedly,
150 guaranteed.
The terms haven't been officially released according to Aaron Rodgers, but what they're stating is 153 million is guaranteed of that 200 million.
150 million guaranteed, which, if I do my math correctly, carry the 3, carry the 2, that's 15 million per point that he scored in the NFC Championship game at home, right? I got you with that.
No comment.
The guy has proven himself to be an outstanding Hall of Fame quarterback. He followed up Brett Favre, and he's been better than Brett Favre for a historic organization in the Green Bay Packers. But my take is he's taken them as far as he's going to take them. I would have loved to see them go after Russell. They would never do it, but I would have loved to see them go after Jimmy G, right? Because Jimmy G was on the other side of that offense, and he beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field. And if you want to say
time out. Jimmy G did not beat him. The special teams falters of the Packers is what cost them. It was not Jimmy G.
Was on the other side.
Jimmy G scored.
And he beat him
3 points. 3.
He beat him.
3.
Look, I get it. I get it. I understand. And I have been a Jimmy G supporter for years because he got to a Super Bowl, which is more than a lot of people can say. He throws his interceptions. He always throws the interception, but he always gets these teams in the game. And of course, he's super handsome. So how can you not root for Jimmy G? I would have loved to see the Packers go after someone like. I think it's kind of a waste of money. We have another interesting question on the chat from Nick. How do you think the Packers' offensive line looks next year? I'll defer to you as the Packers fan because they need a line to protect him. Obviously, he's not the most mobile guy in the world. How's that line? Good, bad?
The line's fine. The line is fine. Obviously, Rodgers scrambles when he has to. He tries not to. And the big key for them next year is they should have Bakhtiari, who's their all-pro left tackle for an entire season. He was out recovering from his injury in 2020, basically all season. I think he only played in like 2 games, 2 or 3 games all season, which was against the Lions in week 18 And then I think he played in the playoff game as well, but he wasn't 100%. So whenever you get a all-pro left tackle back in your starting rotation for your line, you're going to get better. And they performed very well with him out. They obviously won the NFC regular season. And again, the offensive line is not their problem. It's their special teams, which they've already taken steps to address that by signing Bisaccia out of Las Vegas to head that corner of the team. And I think they do have to consider a kicker or going after a new kicker.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a kicker.
Mason Crosby is aging, and you can only kick so long in that cold of a climate. And all his big kicks are going to be in cold weather. So I think they do have to, I don't think they have to part ways, but they've got to get the next in command ready to go from the kicking side of things. But from an offensive line perspective, they are fine. They're one of the best in the NFL, and I expect nothing less going into next season.
Katie Carter asked in the chat, what would we each do with $150 million? Donovan Clem says we should put it all on the Clippers. I agree. If I had $150 million, I would put half on the Clippers, and I would go to the Valley Forge Casino with the other half, and I would put it all on the blackjack table and see what happens. What would you do with 150 mil?
I'd be a smart person. I put in an investment portfolio, so I'm safe for a very, very long time, probably until I die.
Hey, last I checked, this ain't an investment podcast. This is a gambling podcast, right?
Investments and gambling. We've had an episode where we discussed the similarities there. So
right.
It's
friend of the pod, Josh Smart.
It's similar but different. It's similar but different.
Yeah, you're right. I think if we had 150 mil, we'd be doing a lot more of those giveaways on Twitter. That would be something. So that was the big quarterback news. To be upstaged within the hour by Russell Wilson, getting traded to Denver from Seattle for essentially chicken scraps, right? Noah Fant, I think, was in the deal. A bunch of picks. And that's about it. And Drew Lock, right? And Drew Lock is as good as you or I would be as a quarterback. I like this deal for Denver, and they've probably talked themselves into like, oh, we can win a title. But correct me if I'm wrong, they're still in the AFC. They're still in the AFC West. Russell Wilson ain't Mahomes. He ain't even Herbert, and he ain't Josh Allen. He probably ain't Lamar Jackson. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, are they? But they probably talked themselves into it.
I would argue that Russell Wilson is the fourth best quarterback in that division, the AFC West.
The fourth best. Wow. Carr
went to the playoffs. Herbert's up and coming, and Mahomes.
I mean, Wilson's won a Super Bowl.
And Mahomes.
Wilson's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2.
Wilson didn't have to work too hard in that Super Bowl.
He won the Super Bowl, though. I'm saying like that's.
I agree. But right now, he won a Super Bowl in what, 2013, 2014? That's 8 years ago.
It was a while. It was a long time.
That's almost a decade ago.
It was a long time ago. I'd probably put him third. And also, we don't know, like, the Raiders aren't attached to Derek Carr. I wouldn't be surprised if he's elsewhere within a week or so. And our friend, who is pretty connected in the NFL scene, an old fantasy league member of ours, Eric Galco, says there's going to be some more movement on the QB carousel.
If you're listening, Eric Galco, pay your dues.
Pay your fantasy dues and come on the podcast sometime, Galco. We'd love to have you. But he says there's going to be some more movement. And I wouldn't be surprised if Carr is one of them.
Well, you already saw some of it today with Carson Wentz going to Washington.
Carson Wentz, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't, third or fourth in that division is correct because Mahomes is obviously the best and Herbert is probably second, right? So Wilson being third or fourth, their odds went from, they were plus 1,600 before this. And I think that was already deflated because Rodgers was slated to go there too.
Yeah.
Now they're 1,200 with Wilson. That's not nearly enough to get me to lay a single dollar on the Broncos at 12 to 1. No, not a chance. No. They would have to be 30 to 1, 40 to 1 before I'd consider them.
Yeah, it's way too good for a Broncos team that hasn't been good for a very long time. Well, not a very long time, but decently long time. I guess it's 5, 6, 7 since Manning won the Super Bowl, which is what, 2015.
Yeah, and I mean they're in a very similar spot. They're in a very similar spot to that Manning stuff, right? Where the only way that they were going to get better was to get a Russell Wilson. So I like the move for them. I do, because they have a talented offense. You know, they have Judy, they have Sutton, they have Gordon in the backfield, and what's his name? Who's their other running back that they just drafted? I forget his name. I'm sorry.
Javonte.
Yeah. They have a good squad.
Javonte Williams.
Javonte
right?
Williams.
Is that right?
Yep. And they have a good defense. Like they have Surtain. The Seahawks fans must be devastated that like Surtain was not in that deal. I can't believe that Surtain was not in that deal for Russell Wilson. He's what they should have gotten back. And then you go to the other end of things and you look at the Commanders getting Carson Wentz. Why does anybody want Carson Wentz, man?
I'm not sure, but I've taken a pulse from a bunch of Washington fans, and they are just as confused about the deal like the rest of us.
It doesn't make any sense. Like the Eagles had Carson Wentz and they pretty much threw him away. And then the Colts had him for 1 year and they threw him away for less than they traded the Eagles for him. Right?
Yeah.
Like
doesn't make sense.
That dude just cannot play winning quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback, but he's not a good quarterback either. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to win you games. I don't know why they would go after him.
No. And I don't think we're done with the quarterback carousel right now. I'm going to guess I've been seeing Trubisky's possibly going to the Giants, which I think would be an upgrade for them, which would mean they're going to start to look to part ways with Daniel Jones. And I think Jimmy G is going to be on the move too. I just don't know where yet.
Do you have any inkling as where Jimmy G is going to go? Because I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know what would be a good fit for him. Maybe the Colts. Maybe.
I mean, they didn't get a quarterback back, right? So they're going to be looking for somebody.
Right.
Donovan in the chat says the Commanders' odds actually got worse after the announcement of Wentz, and I believe that. I didn't check their odds.
That's common sense.
Right. I think that Carson Wentz is better than Taylor Heineke as a quarterback, but I don't think he moves the needle as far as whether or not they can win the title. Do you?
I do like Heineke's grip, but Carson Wentz isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. There's a lot more problems in Washington than just getting a quarterback that can win.
I don't think they were going to win a Super Bowl no matter what, right? If you're a Terry McLaurin dynasty owner, are you happy with this Carson Wentz move or upset? Because I think I'm happy about it.
Based on who was throwing the ball to him previously,
you got to be a little bit thrilled, right?
You'd think.
Because
now if you're a DK Metcalf owner,
oh, you're terrified.
Me, I'm absolutely terrified. That's the other end of the spectrum over here.
Terrified of next year for DK and for Lockett because Russ loved Lockett.
Well, I think I saw somewhere that Lockett might be on the move as well. So
I believe it.
He's piquing trade interest.
I believe it. We have a couple comments in the chat. Chalk Talk and their fans should go to an NFL game this season. I'm up for it. You tell me when. Me and Burke will be there. You guys can come along if you want.
I got to see what Green Bay's schedule. If they're playing out east somewhere, I'd definitely be down.
All right, we'll take a look at the schedule.
But don't you dare think I'm wasting time on Eagles Cowboys. That's for sure.
No, we're not going to the Eagles Cowboys game. We'd have to go to a good one. Katie Carter says Handsome Jim to Tampa to replace his leader Tom Brady. I don't hate it. I mean, Tampa needs a quarterback. I don't want to spread these rumors for our 4 listeners, but not going to be thrown out of my seat if Brady comes back and goes to the 49ers. I don't know what we think about that. I think he's retired, but if he comes back, he's probably going to the 49ers.
That would be interesting. That's for sure. And I don't think Green Bay would be able to get over the schneid of this 49ers in the playoffs. They've had their number for years.
Yeah.
Going back to the Terrell Owens catch at the end of regulation from Steve Young. That's literally the first heartbreak. And then you had the Kaepernick ordeal. And then you had 2019, the first year that Matt LaFleur was in, they beat them. And then last year they knocked them out of the playoffs. The Packers can't figure out the 49ers. And if Tom Brady goes there, just give the NFC to San Francisco.
Pretty much, right? So, I mean, we're not making any Super Bowl bets at this point, right? Again, it's too early.
Way too early. Way too early.
Right? Yeah, we're not getting there. But it's not too early for some college basketball picks. And Burke is the college basketball guru. I'll use that word lightly, but he's been a guru the last 2 nights, going 4-1 and 3-2, well above the pay line both nights. Good job by you, buddy. Bracket selection is Sunday, you tell me.
That's
I can't
correct.
believe it happened so fast.
Daylight savings too. So we're closing in on late afternoon golf season as well. So we're over the hump. We are over the hump.
We're about a month away from. We're about a month away from Masters Week, my friend. So we're gonna be talking about that in a couple of weeks on this pod for sure. It's the best golf week of the year. But sticking with March Madness, you have a plethora of bets you can make for Selection Sunday. You have a plethora of bets you can make throughout the tournament. Obviously, we like betting round by round. Probably once you get to like the 16 or the Elite 8, then we start betting, potential finals matchups at that point. I think the odds are good at that point. But what do you think about chances to win the title? So the favorite is Gonzaga, and they're almost 4-1 right now. Arizona is 6-1. Baylor and Kentucky are 8-1. And Duke is 12-1. Do you like any of those guys, or do you like the field in that case, or any sleepers?
I actually, even though a lot of people are talking about how there's so much parity in college basketball right now, I really feel that there's only a handful of teams that could go all the way and win a national championship. All those teams, all those top 5 teams that you just mentioned, are part of that 6 to 8 team list that I would consider to win. Some are a little bit stronger than others. Right now, you're looking at probably the 2 most efficient offenses in the country with Gonzaga and Arizona. Arizona, obviously, they hired the former Gonzaga assistant, so their offenses are very similar, and they're a far superior run than any other offense in the country. Baylor's the defending national champion, even though they lost a lot of pieces last year. The guys that stepped up, and they had one major injury, but they've recovered. And I really want to see how they do in the Big 12 tournament this week on a neutral site. I think that's going to go a long way in how they're going to perform March Madness starting next week. I believe Kentucky is on that list as well. They are getting healthy.
Kentucky's 8-1.
Kentucky is getting healthy. They've been beating very good teams in the SEC without their starting backcourt. And once they get those guys back, I think they're going to be a force, and they're going to have the National Player of the Year on their team. So they're a good shot. So right now, Duke, obviously Coach K last season, but I think they have some more problems than the previous 4 teams that I had just mentioned. So again, we're gonna have a nice March Madness bracket episode next week. A little foreshadowing for you guys. So we're gonna work our way through the bracket, and then obviously we're gonna talk about round by round games for your betting action that's outside of just filling a bracket, because there's more to March Madness than just that. So we're gonna try and help you guys win some money along the way if you can't win your own office or whatever pools you guys want to join. But if I had a choice right now, depending on how the bracket shakes out, I would choose between Gonzaga, Arizona, Kentucky, or Baylor to cut down the nets in New Orleans this year.
I'll take them all, and you're getting even odds at the worst case. We have a comment in the chat that says Colgate can't even find their odds. Don't know if they're even playing in the tournament. What do you think about Colgate?
They were one of my picks tonight to go over 68.5, I believe, was their total point score. They are the best offense in the Patriot League. They're playing at home tonight against Navy with a chance to go to the tournament on the line. They're the 2-time defending Patriot League champs. And just to take a quick peek at what they're doing, which I am not watching TV like I normally am during these podcasts, so I've improved on that.
You did have some comments a couple weeks ago. What is Burke watching on his TV?
So the over 68.5 looks like it's going to be good. Colgate's at 52 points right now with 15 minutes to go in the second half.
Don't jinx it, my man.
And they're up by 18 points. So hopefully they just keep the foot on the gas and bring this home, and we'll look at winning some money.
That'd be nice. Yeah. And we don't usually make any, like, you can make conference championship bets and, typically bet it game by game. We're not betting any of these to be 1 seeds, to be 2 seeds, right? Like, the odds aren't worth it. Like Arizona minus 1450, Baylor minus 1,000 to be a 1 seed. Gonzaga is obviously off the board because they'll be a 1 seed. We're not wasting our time with that, right? We're waiting until the bracket gets set. And then we're betting these games game by game, right?
Yeah, because at this point, the seeds are basically locked in for at least those top teams.
Sure.
You may have, based on how somebody performs, if they get upset early in the conference tournament, which it happens, but it's not like a common thing. You may see some swings in the 1-2 line or the 2-3 line, whatever that is. But I don't think I've never bet a team getting a specific seed. You definitely wait till the tournament comes out, and then that's when you start crunching numbers, and that'll lead me into my next statement. It looks like when you're placing a bet, how much of your decision is based on stats and numbers and how much is gut feel. For college basketball, I used to be a very gut feel guy. I watched a lot of games, and I thought like I understood the game of basketball better than most, and I can kind of guess how a game's going to be played out. But a lot of more recently, and which led to my success in a lot of bracket pools last year, I looked at 4 sets of statistics in order to determine who I thought was going to win a game. Because for March Madness, if you're filling out a bracket, you're not projecting a winner on a spread. You're picking straight up who's going to win the game, which makes it theoretically a lot easier. But when I look at those games, I am looking at Ken Pomeroy rankings, it's just an analytics base. Same with the NCAA NET rankings, two similar, but a little bit different with their criteria and how they rank teams. And then 2 more very important and probably the most crucial stats I look at are teams' offensive and defensive efficiencies. Now, teams, if you can look for anomalies with for projecting upsets, if there's like a team in a small conference, like for example, Abilene Christian last year, they were a 14 seed. They knocked off Texas. They were the number 1 defensive efficiency ranking in the country. And that led me to think, you know what? Texas doesn't have that great of a superpower offense. They might have a shot to keep it close. And obviously they won the game outright. I think they were like 12 or 13 point underdogs. But you want to look for those anomalies, at least in the first round. And I'm going to talk about this next week too. But when you're looking at picking a national champion, I think the last 6 or 7 national champs have been in the top 15 in the country in both offensive and defensive efficiency rankings, which right now I believe that would hold par to maybe 5 teams. So if you're looking for a national champion, that would be your baseline to choose from, and then kind of build your bracket out from there. But a lot more recently, at least in March Madness, I've been looking at the analytics as opposed to my gut just to make these picks. And obviously double check where the lines currently are. If there's like a 5-12 game, that's a 3-point spread. Chances are the upset's more likely to happen. And it's something you have to look at too. And it's not just, oh, this team's hot. They've won several games. No, you got to kind of look at the analytics as a whole and do your research. And again, next week, I'm going to hopefully help you guys kind of put together a bracket so you can make some money, and hopefully I'll make some along with you.
Yeah, and I'll chime in a little bit on that. More so on the NBA side, because I don't bet college as much as you do. I'll really only bet the tournament. And that Abilene game I got smoked on last year because I had the other end of that. Probably because I didn't do my homework as well as you. And there were a couple games like that I didn't do my homework. But there were other games where I forget who was the 8 seed that Gonzaga played last year. Was it like Texas Tech or something? I don't remember. But they were favored. They won their first round game, and then they were playing the 8 or 9 seed in their second round game.
I think it was Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, that sounds right, yeah. And they were favored, I think 12.5 was the line. And I was going back and forth with our one friend, Larry, who took the dog in that game. He took Oklahoma. He's like, 12.5 is too much. Oklahoma's a good team. And I'm telling him, like, man, 12.5 is not enough for a team like the Zags. You know what I mean? They have 3 or 4 NBA starters, and now we see it. They have Suggs, Kispert, Ayayi, whoever else is starting in the NBA this year. And they ended up covering. They won by like 14 or 15, right? So I'm looking at the line to say, is this line enough or is it not enough? And not necessarily thinking about how the game will go, but I'm saying, hey, if this team is favored by whatever it is, 20, especially in a 1 seed over a 16 seed, if they're favored by 34, that doesn't matter. They might be 50 points better than that team. And I'm trying to gauge it against the line. And I think to your point against statistics, you can, paralysis by analysis. If you're looking at all the statistics, in a sense, you have to find the statistics that work. So the Ken Palm thing, I think, is great. I think that's a good measuring stick to use. I think that efficiency is probably good to use in college. In the NBA, I'm looking at defensive efficiency. I'm looking at matchups. I'm looking at, does this team have a high post-up rate? Okay, if they do, who's the center on the other team? I'm looking at stats that matter. So I think it's finding stats that matter and identifying lines that are wrong. And I'll just give an example. On Saturday, the Kings played the Mavericks, and the Mavericks were favored by 7.5 early in the day. And then Luka was announced that Luka was out. And I'm like, oh man, the Kings are going to flop. They're going to be favored in this one. But it turns out that the Kings only dropped to plus 4.5. So they went from 7.5 to 4.5. You're telling me Luka Doncic is only worth 3 points? That's incorrect. So at that point, you're hopping on the Kings plus 4.5. They were up 20 in that game. They ended up losing by 1, but the 4.5 was wrong at that point, right? So I'm trying to find these lines that are staggered incorrectly, and kind of going off the analysis on what the line should be versus what the line is. So I think we're both on the same page on that. And we're looking forward to giving you some college picks as we get into the tournament here next week. We'll do a recap show next Wednesday about the selection on Sunday. We'll kind of give you our sleepers, we'll fill out a bracket. Why don't we do a Chalk Talk bracket pool for whoever wants to enter? See what we can make out of that. I think that would be good. My parting question for you tonight is number 1 draft pick next year from college. You watch more college than I do. I just know the names. Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith?
Oh, I mean, those I think are the 2 front runners. I think Chet Holmgren has so much potential, and his game is raw, but he's so polished as a 7'1". He's going to put on more muscle, but he's got the touch from the outside. He can handle the ball, and he's a defensive difference maker in these games. I know he was a little bit of foul trouble last week, and sometimes there's teams that are more physical that can kind of push him around a little bit, but he alters offensive game plans because teams will not drive to the bucket against him, because he's one of the few guys that will block shots without fouling you. And
that's a tough skill to have. Yeah.
I know a lot of people were on Jabari. Was it Jabari Williams? Jabari Smith? It's Jabari Smith.
You don't even know what we're talking about. You're supposed to be the college guru, man. I know.
I know. I can't remember his last name, but with all due respect to him, I know he's having a great year. Auburn's going to hopefully make a great run in the tournament. I just don't see them winning the whole thing because of their guard play. But Chet Holmgren is a unicorn. He's an absolute unicorn. And if you haven't watched him, you may not, the first time you see him, you may think he's not a basketball player because he looks like a twig, but the guy can play. And I think his game is going to translate very well to the next level, where you got big men now starting to expand outside of the lane and start to shoot from the outside. I think he fits right into that mold very well. And I think he's going to be your number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. You know what I mean? I think it's between those 2 right now. You never know who's going to come up. Remember, we weren't talking about John Morant until the tournament started, and Murray State won a game or 2, and he was putting up triple doubles in the tournament. I think he had at least 1, which is kind of unheard of in the NCAA tournament, especially for
it was the first triple double, I think, the NCAA tournament since Dwayne Wade did it.
I think that's right. I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah,
and obviously Dwayne Wade, Hall of Fame NBA career.
Right.
Wasn't a superstar in college. We weren't talking about him on a daily basis, but we weren't with John Morant either. And look what Ja's doing in year 3.
Yeah. Well, and you can find these guys, you know what I mean? And I think that's the point. So, Mobley was, to me, clearly the best player in the last draft, and he's probably showing it out in Cleveland. Cade is coming along, and Jalen Green's coming along. Jalen Green was a G League guy, but Mobley, I think, was the best player in that draft. Go back a couple of years, Luka, far and away the best player in that draft, and he went 3rd and technically 4th because the Hawks traded away the rights to him. So that was absolutely insane. John Morant went 2nd. Zion, I think, is still a better player, but you still find Ja is an excellent consolation prize. And there's guys all over the place. You know what I mean? Unless there's a LeBron coming out, unless there's an MJ, and MJ wasn't even top overall. So unless there's a guy,
MJ was 2. They took
MJ was 2. That's what I'm saying. So unless there's a clear cut LeBron, a clear cut Davis, you know what I mean? there's guys throughout this draft. So that's something that we should focus on as we get to the summer too. And we'll definitely talk more about that. Any parting words as we go into conference championship weekend before we get into the tournament?
No, this is my favorite part of the year. I love March Madness probably more than anybody out there. I'm really excited. Championship week's great because now it's almost end of night Wednesday. Tomorrow you got all the big tournaments, all their guys kicking off. So you're going to get really good matchups basically on all day long from now and through Sunday. And the bracket gets released at 6 p.m. Sunday night. Those brackets will be available to you guys to start filling out around 7. So I'll be doing my research starting Sunday night, and tune in next week as we walk everybody through the bracket and hopefully get you guys at the top of your pools and making some money. That's for sure.
Yeah, stay tuned. Tune in tomorrow. Like I said, I'm going to that Philly game, so I'll probably try to hop on the Chalk Talk. Once the line is posted, I will, come on and give my spiel for one side of that. There's no way I can go against Philly when I'm going to Philly, so I'm probably going to pick that side of it, but we'll see. We'll be on next week to do some college picks for the tournament. It's a good time of year, man. Sports are thriving. Basketball, college, and professional are both thriving. The NFL has kind of died down, but we've got the basketball to replace it. So, hey, hope you guys enjoyed this little unscripted fireside chat. Hopefully we weren't too off kilter for you tonight. That's all I got. Until next time, I've been your host. Burke has been your co-host. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers falls apart this year for my sake, not for your sake. Keep asking the questions on the YouTube video. This was awesome today. We had a lot of questions come in.
Yeah, same with Twitter too. We're always checking Twitter, and if there's anything
on
that
Twitter, we're
pops
both
up
checking it every
outside of one
day.
of these live episodes, we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, and we don't even have to do this, structured. We can hop on live on a Thursday or Friday night sometime if we're both available and, do a little Q&A. I think that would be fun too. So until next time, appreciate you guys. Season 2 kicking off with a bang, a little fireside, unscripted chat. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am your host. Burke is your co-host. Until next time, let's go make some money, my friends.
Let's do it.